Because sometimes truth isn't good enough.
I feel the need for speed.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna?
Cause it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
And I'm loving how that graphic is coming along. But incidentally, welcome back to Winter Wolf's Den, everybody. Winter Wolf here. I got King Z going to be riding shotgun for FrostCast episode 006. You know what, King Z? Get in here and correct me. Should I be calling it 006 or just 6?
I think just 6.
Double zero, right?
I think we should just go with 6.
Why confuse
people? We'll count it with WW 006, but did I say WW? I did, didn't I?
You did. You did. My man's thinking SummerSlam or Survivor Series or whichever one's next. I don't even know. I stopped giving up when they had more than 4 pay-per-views. I'm like, no.
Bad Blood, October 5th, right here in Hotlanta.
Bad Blood, bad dudes, bad chicken. I don't know. It's all the same to me. Dude, we got a lot to talk about, what we thought was going to be a slowish news week. We ended up getting a couple of banger stories that are getting covered everywhere on YouTube that are like heavy traction deals, especially with the gaming stuff and the Rings of Power stuff. So with no further ado, you got that cross look on your face, like something's about to explode.
It's not letting me do what I want to do.
Oh no! Shall I read us into the first topic anyway while you work?
Yes.
I'm more than qualified to ramble. Got it. So the first topic tonight, we're going to get King Z's take on it. I'll set him up. I'll set the table nice and proper for him. So King Z's been away from gaming for a while, but I did send him a couple of articles because, as you guys may or may not have seen, woke gaming dying on the vine in 2024. The woke side of the force has taken back-to-back absolute drummings lately with alleged AAA games. And I say alleged because we're talking about big studios that actually used to be AAA. It used to put out quality things that people would actually pre-order, like enthusiastically. People would wait outside of Best Buys and Targets and Walmarts at midnight for releases of certain games. That's just not the case anymore. Part of that's the business. Part of that is, changes in taste and preferences. But here we go. The big one for right now is Concorde. It's a hero type shooter. Kingsley, I'm sure you're familiar with games like Overwatch, even though you might not have gamed a whole lot. You understand the hero shooter concept. Each individual player has their own unique abilities kind of thing. And then you do arena battle. You do some capture the flag stuff. So Concorde was, I believe it's a Firewalk Studio production. Sony acquired them to be kind of like an Overwatch competitor. It's got $200 million in development budget. It's been in the works 8 years. Guy, it came out like 12 days ago, and not only have they shut it down, they're removing it from the stores and they're refunding money. This game sold, there it is, dude. You just rolled it right to where I needed to be, bro. 25,000 copies globally. Not to like, a big college, not to like the SEC, something like that, to use the college football or whatever. No. This game, the vaunted title that it was supposed to be, has dunked on itself into oblivion. Look at that. All-time peak, 697. Not 697,000, not 6,970, 697. Dude, that figure right there puts the Suicide Squad peak player count of 12,000. Like, the developers over there, even though they just laid off a bunch of people, they're like, now we're not the biggest flop of the year. Dude, this might be the biggest gaming flop of all time. That's how bad this is. And I know you've been away from gaming for a little bit. This is just the latest in the string of the ass whoopings, dude. If I'll continue for a moment, we get Star Wars Outlaws currently getting absolutely lambasted across social media, selling something like only 50,000 copies in the UK, setting up Assassin's Creed Shadow, also by Ubisoft, for a drumming that they're going to take. I heard on a live stream earlier that Assassin's Creed Shadows will have to sell as much as Valhalla sold to offset the absolute drumming that they're expecting from Outlaws. Valhalla is the second best-selling Assassin's Creed of all time. There's no chance this studio recovers from these. But we have other titles like Dustborn that got crapped on, Suicide Justice League dunked on, Kill the Justice League dunked on. Dude, is DEI in gaming? Is it starting to die? Are these studios going to take the hint after back-to-back losses?
I really don't see how this is DEI. I've seen many game studios have done this with a just a bad game. If people aren't buying it, it might have just missed its audience. Look at Final Fantasy 14, their second chance at an MMO. It came out and then they pulled it, revamped it, changed things, brought it back, and then they had the Realm Reborn title to it, and it came back. I honestly don't think it's DEI. I think this is just a bad game that a studio put out before it was ready to be put out. I mean, yeah, it had plenty of time for development, but the market changed from the time that they started building this game. They're trying to hit that Call of Duty first-person shooter. Actually, they're trying to probably be a Apex replacement.
Yeah, Overwatch, Apex, hero shooter stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few games that have had to be pulled, redone, and then put back out. I mean, look at New World. It came out to huge fanfare, and then it just died out because they didn't develop it the way, unknowing what gamers are capable of when they want to grind. They thought the way they built their grind and the leveling, that it's not going, people aren't going to reach Matt's level within the first 30 days, and they did in the first 2 weeks. They weren't prepared for that, as it was their first iteration into the gaming world. Look at Kurt Schilling's
a great game, Kingdoms of Amalur. I love that game.
Yep, but it missed its target. And it took the whole studio underneath, because he put his whole fortune into that gaming studio, and it just went away. So, like I said, I don't think this is anything with DEI. I think a lot of people are trying to throw that as a buzzword out there to try to bring in attention to it, but I honestly don't think it is.
You got to cut a little bit deeper into the actual game. If you actually look at the character roster and some of the emphasis that they put on character design and backstory, I don't think we have the I didn't send over character pictures of it here, but we've got 4 or 5 body positivity type characters here. The four or five of them, of the lead characters on the roster, are females, females of color that identify as something that they're not in game. The studio itself, of course, they have their same slew of idiot statements on Twitter and social media, where they're telling, they're reminding us exactly who this game is for. And I think they bit off more than they can chew. You're right on the games that you mentioned in terms of revamps and redesigns and missing marks. And if this was any other studio 10 years ago, or actually we have to go back a little bit longer, like 15 years ago, say, maybe they did just miss the mark and they released a game late into an oversaturated market that had bangers like Valorant, that had Apex, that had Overwatch 1 and 2. That might be the thing. But I mean, their studio and studio lead designer and community manager has been recently on the record as saying, like pre-release, what do I care what a bunch of talentless hacks have to say about our game? Well, but maybe you should have had. Maybe you should have been concerned what some folks would have said. I agree. I think there's too often there's examples of people that they want to shove the DEI accusation in the same way that the shills want to shill DEI, because it gets attention. It does. But I think sometimes the shoe fits, and I think this is one of them. And if they had taken all that money, they could have made a game that mechanically would have performed. And that's the other thing too. We should have brought up some live footage of people playing the beta on Twitch. Like, mechanically, this game is just dog do. Like, it's the most boring, dated thing I've seen in terms of an arena shooter in forever. Like, everything that you mentioned from games like Apex and Overwatch, they tried to like ape for this game and just didn't pull it off. So not only is it uninspired at a baseline, then you have all that other ancillary stuff that kind of makes it not worth following after that. And the Dustborn game, like, and set in an alternative United States where Kennedy wasn't shot, but then somehow, like, if you roll down, it gets a bit of a synopsis there. I mean, look at the headline. I mean, the secondary headline: "The future is queer if you're along for a ride." Dude, that tells you everything you need to know about a game right up front. Oh yeah, there you go. First paragraph there. Dustborn, narrative-driven action adventure, yada yada. Seceded across Silicon Valley. Yep, you find friends, lovers, found family, fleeing the country. This group of outcast queers and exploited workers fight fascist cops and smash corporate drones. Dude, I can't even read the rest of that. But dude, you and I, we could make an ultra right-wing game, right? We could absolutely do that. We do it on a modest budget if it so suited our interests, and then we'd release it and let the chips fall where they may. The problem with these games is they're not made to scale, and I think bigger than maybe the DEI accusation is that concept of modern audience that keeps coming up. where these developers keep thinking that there's this other large, giant majority of people that have an appetite for these products, and there's not. I mean, they're now 0 for 4 with this nonsense, while meanwhile games like Black Myth Wukong, games like Harry Potter Legacy, other games that blow up, appeal to a giant cross-section of people and sell gangbusters. Games like Dustborn, like they get 500 people peak total, and they've been out for weeks. There's indie games on Steam right now that have bigger concurrent players than that. So I just don't think that. So maybe it's not a DEI thing. Maybe it is just a misunderstanding that the echo chamber isn't real and the modern audience is non-existent. What's your take on that instead? That's probably a better question for you as a non-gamer.
I think it goes back to they're just missing their mark of what would sell. They think that more people would want to play these type of games because they're trying to be
inclusive?
Inclusive, I guess that I was looking for the R word where it was like representation,
representative or something.
Yeah,
like
representative, something like that.
Thing.
Yeah,
same idea.
Yeah, inclusive, and they think that people would want to play that, where people kind of just want to play a good game. Once again, I think people read too much into it and want it to be, the big boogeyman. It's an election year, so you're going to have the big boogeyman, and like our favorite show to hate on. They try to blame it on everything other than themselves, because how dare it be my fault that it's failing? It's all your fault that it's failing. And no, this game's failing because these graphics, I have Full Throttle back in 1996 has better graphics than this. Why do I have a 4080 Ti and I'm going to have to run a game like that? I want a beautiful where my graphics card is going, please hold down, I can't handle it, even though I'm the greatest thing out there.
Set me to medium. I hear you? That the game you want for that is Final Descendant, by the way. That's the game you want for that. That game's a banger for a shooter.
And the thing is,
I hear what you're saying.
Like, games have inclusiveness in it already. They really do. Especially if you play a fantasy. Most shooters, you can get the different skins that make it look more like who you are, or you could be
character designs in every game.
Yeah, and fantasy games and role-playing games have been doing that for years. You could play as a dark elf. You could change your skin tone. You can change your hairstyle. You could play as either gender. It really doesn't matter. So it's been. I think people are trying too hard to include people to the point of being detrimental to the product that they're trying to put out in the market. And
I think you're dead on with that. Yeah,
make a good game. People are going to play it. Like people, some people were complaining like people are Outlaw is tanking because you play as a female. No one said that about Horizon. You play as a redheaded female, and you're just destroying.
Yeah,
and it has
great comp, great modern comp.
Yeah, so I don't see the big problem here. Everyone wants to blame someone else, so they don't want to take responsibility for their own failures. Plain and simple.
I think you're 1,000% right on that. And I think the last thing I would say on that, in terms of these products, regardless of which side you fall on, or even regardless of which side the product is, when something tanks as bad as this game does, or something like the show that will not be named has tanked, whenever you get people out there butthurt and accusing the other side and blaming giant channels on the other side for having derailed this show, that game, that movie, whatever, the thing they always seem to forget is that their team didn't show up either. Because if there was a 50-50 split in market share and the show that won't be named bombed, it's because both of those market shares of left and right or whatever didn't show up. It's not just because one side overpowered the other and somehow, because you and I both, we know review bombs are the false narrative. We get that. There's not enough of us to make all of the people that you think should have supported your show took them out of the running. That's just not how the numbers work. Well, there was more of a 90-10 slant, not a 50-50.
They straight said, if you don't like it, don't watch. And that's what happened. People stopped watching and the viewership numbers just crashed because we didn't like it because it was bad. Not because of any other reason other than it was bad.
I remember the famous example where the current creators on Doctor Who on BBC and Disney Plus advised legacy fans that if you didn't like the direction the show was going, to quote, go touch grass. So we did. And I think that applies to a lot of the stuff that would fall under the microscope of these kind of woke or anti-woke allegations, I think. But cool. Thank you for covering the gaming topic, dude. I know it's a stretch. I know you haven't gotten down with the shooter in a while, but I knew you had some insights.
I still like games. I just
did. I know you ain't got no time.
My time. I'm cramped with time as it is. I don't have time to sit there and play a video game that's going to take 3 or 4 hours. And during those 3 or 4 hours, I could accomplish 17 other tasks. So
true. And it's the price you pay to growing old, dude. There you go. Leave the game to us younger folks. That's what we do.
Yeah. What was it?
That ass on Black Ops 6 the other day.
What is it? 11 months and like 10 days.
It's almost a full year. That's right. It's almost a full year. But speaking of other colossal failures, I'm going to keep the failure train rolling right along. Yeah. So full total disclosure, I didn't finish season 1. I know you didn't finish season 1.
I didn't even start season 1.
Right. I'm not going to watch season 2. I know you're not going to watch season 2. You won't be jumping into this game late.
Said I have limited time as it is. Why am I going to waste it watching a show that I know I'm not going to enjoy?
Oh, good Lord. Oh, dude, you might think the sets are good. Some of the production.
Oh, the sets look beautiful. I've seen enough of it to think that it was built. I like the way they did the production in this. But from what I've seen of the story, one, it has nothing to do with this Silmarillion. And I believe Tolkien's rolling over in his grave when what they did to his Middle Earth, other than make it look
stick
beautiful.
A turbine down there and just generate power for like the planet, I think, for like a year.
At this point, I don't think Peter Jackson can save this.
No, I mean, and we might get a taste of that too, because is he involved with that War of the Rohirrim animated thing? Because isn't that?
I think he's just an executive producer. Like his name is only on it.
So he has maybe no influence at all on that. So I thought maybe there was a hope
that's
that.
Animated.
Yep, true. But the show back on Amazon Prime last week, I got let me run a couple figures by because I did some figure calculation here. Right? Check it out. So season 2 had 900,000 views, but it took them 5 days to get there. All right. By comparison, House of the Dragon season 2 episode 1, when it came back, had something like 19 million in 2 days. All right. And of the 900,000 in 5 days, according to Samba TV, that's 50% of the premiere season 1 received when they dropped 2 episodes 2 years ago. So I don't know where this show gets to go from here, dude. Like there's a stat that's been flying around for a while that's something like 65% of people that started season 1, myself included, dropped out and didn't even stick around to the finale. So they only had 30% of their starting batch finish the show, and of that batch, only half showed up to watch 3 episodes worth of this crap for season 2. And the gripes seem to be all the same, dude. Like you said about just respecting canon and lore. Like the professor 100% to be spinning in his grave. They continue to take liberties. They continue to take sequences out of events for some reason that they don't even have to. You know, I guess there's a couple of key sequences that I've been looking into because I haven't read the Silmarillion. I'm not as familiar with that subject matter, but the order in which the rings were created has been bastardized for this show. And it basically infects show logic going forward. So we don't even have to talk identity politics, woke stuff. I mean, that cat's out the bag on this show. But in terms of just the story making sense within the larger context of the trilogy, within the context of the Silmarillion and all that, the appendices, all that stuff, they've broken things that they didn't have to break and made more work for themselves. Now they have to paint themselves out of logic traps that they've kind of cornered themselves into. I can't imagine that feels good working on a show like that. You know, it must be a mind boggler. And the usual suspects, we had a couple up here at Forbes. We're on Vulture right now. You guys can kind of skim that as King Z's going along. Like the shill media that typically gets their reviews prioritized over ours. You know, they're under embargoes unless, of course, they're overwhelmingly positive. We don't ever get to talk about that. We don't ever get to talk about how they have access to, to the actors, to the show, to the producers, all that stuff, as long as they have the good things to say. They're not covering for this show anymore, guy. There's still a lot of people shilling, but there are a lot more people not. And that's kind of the take I wanted to get from you on this. Like, what do you think of the tide kind of turning on Amazon's $1 billion baby? Like, media-wise.
that's what's going to happen if you don't deliver on what you promised. It's overpromise, under-deliver the whole time. Now, one of the things I saw in the last article right here at the end that I was highlighting is that the one thing I do give them credit for is that they took the world and made their own story. Like, they didn't like convert a story out of the Silmarillion. They didn't change it and flip characters. They the one thing like Jenna just came out, they didn't gender swap characters to fit a narrative. They created their own world. Hats off to you. You just dropped the ball on doing it.
Right.
So,
I think that's a great fair thing to point out, is we always encourage the original effort, but that just because you did doesn't mean that it's like an A+ effort. I think a lot of people tend to dunk on the two not Hobbit characters that this show invented. You might have seen them in like the clips of things like that. Wonder they look dirty. They look like hobos. They got like tree nuts in their hair and crap like that. It's basically rip off Frodo and Sam is what they went for here, but they're obnoxious, right? The backstory, the culture that they wrote around these characters is bizarre. It's very not Tolkien, not hobbits, but they're clearly supposed to be hobbits, but because they don't own the rights to that kind of material, they're not allowed to say it. You know, they are taking some liberties with the not and that's the thing, dude. Everybody on this show is a not version. It's not Sauron, it's not Galadriel, it's not Gandalf, because there has been some weirdness with that. But I agree, some of the set pieces are good, but when you zoom in and you're looking at like costuming and armor sets, things like that, like it looks kind of Party City. You remember like when they made the Lord of the Rings trilogy, like all that ringmail armor was like handmade, like stitched together, like like iron forged, like by hand, not like 3D printed crap. Like it shows on the micro level on this show. The backgrounds and all that stuff look very picturesque, very Tolkien. Crystal water, the big statues overlooking the bay, like the king with the pointing out at sea, like that stuff looks great. But everything is on the ground level. Like, do you remember the copy paste extras thing from the crowd from season 1? Did I show you that?
no.
But you can see, like when they had a crowd scene in the square, you could see where it was the same cluster of 6 NPCs literally just placed in different places around addressing the speaker. Like the same dude had the bald head, the other dude was wearing a green cloak with a brown sash in exactly the same pattern in different places. It's kind of funny because you'd think for like 200 mil, a season, maybe you could get a better After Effects group. I don't know, but I don't know.
To do that, you would actually need different actors. Like it's an easy thing to do, long as the camera doesn't move. You can easily do that. So how to do that? And here's your technical point of the day: is you shoot a clean slate, meaning you have your camera in the same spot with all your actors with nobody in it, and then you shoot your scene. And then you can either have them move. Now, how you should have had them do this is have them move around and shoot the scene again, and then have them move around again. If you have limited background actors, this is what you do. And then you have them move around again, and you shoot the scene again. And then you go in and you just mask out everything, and then you bring them all, bring in your crowd.
So that's it. Would you have them, as you reshoot the scene, would they stand in different positions to create a more okay? So they would. That's what I mean. You wouldn't just move the same 7 people from A to B to C to D. You'd have to be like, all right, dude, you stand here, put the girl up front. These 2 dudes move over here, or get out all together. That way, it looks like a different collection of people filling up a space of 50 instead of just having 7.
So it'd be the same way if I shot a scene where I played my own twin.
Oh, right. You just basically you do out yours part, and then we shoot part 2. Coming back with a flip of the dialogue.
And you just got to make sure you don't move anything. Nothing can move. Like you have to mark where your camera is, everything like that, because it has to be exactly the same.
Right. Otherwise you get that herky-jerky, everything.
Yeah. The other way to shoot that is you have your stand-in there with you.
Oh, yeah.
And then their dress is the other character. And then every time you just flip-flop the 2.
Right. There you go. So King Z dropping knowledge. That's why we pay him the not big bucks to be. So there again, the not big. That's the show, dude. It just feels not big. Like I think one of the other headlines that I thought was, it might have been the Forbes one. I don't remember. There was a headline that was like, "Yeah, we're back in Middle Earth, but who's having fun?" And again,
that was the other one.
Forbes. Okay.
No.
So Vulture.
Yeah, Vulture.
I think it's in Forbes and Vulture. I thought I sent a New York Post one. I might not have. I've read a few, but the trilogy was fun. Even when folks were in danger and going through it, it was still fun. There was that sense of adventure. I didn't get that at all from the 5 episodes that I watched in season 1. So I don't see the point if I didn't attach to any of the characters at that point. What about going back for season 2 or finishing 1 and jumping back in makes any kind of sense? Like, it always felt like a slog. I heard Mahler say on one of his talks with Critical Drinker, I think it was over the weekend, or I think it was over the weekend. You know, there were 3 hours of this show that were available on launch, and it felt like days to get through it. That like people were thinking about like cleaning the car, doing the vacuuming, going grocery shopping, folding laundry. Like, I don't want to be thinking about mundane tasks while I'm watching Lord of the Rings. Like, if we put on Fellowship right now, even if we skip the giant battle exposition at the beginning, when Frodo's reading his book in the Shire and the music hits and Gandalf's coming in the wagon and he's humming his way into town, dude, I'm in an instantly better mood, man. Like, I'm on board for the show. Gandalf's there. He's driving away. The kids look bummed. He sets off the fireworks and I'm like, I'm in. Here we are. Middle Earth. Let's do this. And everything I remember about season 1 and just the bits, I've watched a couple of clip summaries of episodes, I think 1 and 2 of season 2. It looks bland. It looks dreary. And even where there is color, like when they are on Numenor, the island nation, sparkling water, pretty setbacks. The minute everything tightens in from those shots, everything just feels like lifeless to me on this show, which is sad because that's not how Middle Earth, I don't think, is supposed to be, whether it is the Shire or it is Rohan or Gondor, even if you get over to like into Mordor. Like, it just feels there's a characteristic quality to it, you know, that is even the crappy place. Like, I don't remember the name of the swamp with the dead things in it, as Gollum said, going into Mordor. Like, that had a vibe all its own, man. It's ominous. This show has none of that, dude. None of it. You know, I wish it
like
did.
You said, over promise, under delivered. You're thinking you're going to get at least The Hobbit, which, you know, was a lesser version of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, you know, definitely a wish version.
Great book, but
sure.
Stretching a pretty much a small novelette, I would say, not even a full novel.
10 pages, I believe,
into 3 movies is just
3 feature-length movies with Fellowship of the Rings trilogy runtimes, because they ain't short. No pun intended. No pun intended. But yeah, but even then, I mean, for as over the top as those 3 movies were, and to think about over the top, right? The barrel escape scene with the dwarves going absolutely ham, as wild as that was, or when they're fighting the goblins, that escape from Goblin Town, that shit was like 18 minutes long. Like, it was long. I'm like, here we go.
I thought they were trying to pitch ideas for Lord of the Rings world. Like, that could be the water ride where you're riding the barrels, and
I'll do the barrel ride with you. We can do that shit. Do we get to actually like shoot back at like orcs and shit? Because I'm down. Like,
one doesn't
the minecart ride. I'm down.
Yeah, one doesn't simply walk into Mordor zip line and stuff like that.
Dude, but I do see. Dude, it writes itself. I don't know why they don't call us. They should. They could call us up now. But as my point was, even though those scenes were long and overdrawn and everything was nuts and on like meth, speed, crack, everything, every upper you could lay out there in that movie, I wasn't ever bored. I got exhausted by the end of watching it all go down, but I wasn't bored. And Rings of Power right now, once you put all the identity politic crap aside, you put all that nutbag crap about, you know, the orcs being, that's the thing with this season, is the orcs don't want to be under Sauron's control. They just want to take care of their families and they're misunderstood. I'm like, no allegory. They're not, as badly as you people want them to be. They're not an allegory for like migrant workers. Stop that. You're the ones doing the coding as people and things that they're not. They're just fucking orcs. That's all they're supposed to be. They're cannon fodder for the good guys. Once you change that, you ruin it. Star Wars did the same shit with Finn and his buddy, the stormtrooper that died. Like, in that one scene, Finn's big mad that his friend dies and he's got the blood smeared on his helmet. And 5 minutes later, he's shooting other stormtroopers with a TIE fighter and yipping it up to get out of the hangar. Like, it doesn't work unless they're just cannon fodder. You can't have it both ways. It doesn't work. Rings of Power. That's all I got to say on that. So I'll leave it to you as we move into topic 3. Do you want to do we have one of those template games up, or do you want to talk Jurassic World?
What I was going to talk about is welcome everybody to FrostCast episode 6, and thank you for coming along as we're in our midpoint of the show. And this is where we're going to welcome everybody and say thank you for coming along and helping this podcast grow off the ground. We're we're a little slow going, but that's what's expected to happen when you're first starting out. But all the people who have come along, who've left your comments, who've streamed along with us, thank you so much. That said, we are now officially on Spotify. We have launched, I think I have the first 3 episodes up on Spotify. And from here on out, every Thursday, I'm going to be posting a new episode. It'll be a week behind from where we are on the live stream. Also, we are on Amazon Music and iHeartRadio right now. We're working to get on Apple Podcasts, which will also put us on Podcaster as well. So I'm working on getting those. They're a little slow going. You know, Apple's kind of funny on getting your podcast on there. So thank you so much. And if you do want to hear the audio version, go ahead and head over to Spotify, give us that 5-star rating, and leave a comment. Let us know. And also, if you enjoy Ring of Power, go ahead and leave a comment and tell us why. Because we would like to see what other people think about this and why you're enjoying the show. Not that we're going to dog you. We honestly just want to know.
Yep.
But since this is the first episode of the month, I think it's important to let the people know what's coming out. Since we are kind of a informational type podcast of the Nerdom, but this is actually going to see all the movies coming out because I didn't have time to build a graphic. I'm sorry, but I'm going to scroll through. Yeah, going to be scrolling through a website, and we're going to be looking at what's coming out, starting with this Friday, September 6th. We have the this is a long-awaited sequel. Oh, whoops! There we go.
There it is.
Of Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is coming out, which is the sequel. And if you do know Beetlejuice, you know one more time, and he will appear. Spoken 3 times uninterrupted.
Right.
So I liked how they did the Beetlejuice as the title for the sequel, which is the first one was just called Beetlejuice.
What do they make the title for part 3 if this is successful? Because they can't do all 3 names, right? Do they do B cubed or something? Like, what's the gimmick that they'll go with for that?
I don't know. I haven't it doesn't come out till I think the early showing's tomorrow night, so we'll see what they do with this one, if it really opens the door to have a sequel. They did bring back Winona Ryder, who was in the original, and introduce it. They're bringing in Jenna Ortega, horror movie specialist, as playing her daughter in this, which should be a very interesting story of what's going to happen. And I'm really happy Michael Keaton come back to reprise.
They're bringing back the man himself, right?
Yeah, as Beetlejuice. Yeah, another one coming out gangbusters this week caught my eye a little bit. This is more in the horror genre, which we'll talk about a little bit. And where is it? Could have swore it came out this Friday. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's keep scrolling. Let's see what else is coming out. Is it this one? No, that's not it. All right, moving on to NetSuite.
There's a couple. Oh, yeah, there's a pair. There's 2. There's 3 of them. So I think the Killer's Game, I think, is on folks' radar as well. We'll get down to that in a minute. For kids going back to school, Transformers 1, obviously.
Yep, which is the origin story of the Autobots and Decepticons, how the war started. This is the one that caught my eye. That was in the horror genre. Was Speak No Evil, having the guy who should have won 2 Oscars by now for Best Actor, James McAvoy.
Yep.
This one was kind of interesting. Of like a couple gets a series of couples trapped in the woods, and then horror entails. So this one looks
super creepy, dude. You've seen the trailer for that, right?
Yes, I did see
that. The movie, yeah. It's got some weird, like, entire psycho family vibes going on with, like, the one normal family meets another psycho family on vacation and then gets invited back to psycho family home and then stuck. Like, it looks wildly unsettling. And James McAvoy, dude, that dude must have trouble dating. That's all I'm saying. He
plays creepy. He plays bald-headed psychics. He could play the Beast. He's a very well-rounded actor, and he can
play Mr. Tumnus in Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah. Very versatile.
Yeah, I'm just saying he's being denied Leonardo DiCaprio style. except Leonardo DiCaprio at least got nominated every year and just didn't win.
Yep.
And then another interesting comedy view.
That's
the Killer's Game with Dave Bautista in it. I just saw the trailer of it the other day, and it does look interesting. Pretty much, he thinks he's going to die, so he puts a hit out on himself, and then realizes he just has bad eyesight, and he read it wrong, and now he has to survive his own hit. So
yeah, I love the trailer for that. It sets it up as like this serious, dramatic, like assassin action movie thing, and then he gets the phone call, and I think it's that his doctors gave him somebody else's results, and then we're just like, but you might want to get your eyes checked also. Like that was the news that he should have got based on his tests, and so he's got to then survive the hit that he put out on himself, like you said. Dude, I kind of like him as an actor. He's not the worst thing out there, so I do like him in some of the stuff I've seen him in. I'd give it a chance.
He's one of the better actors turn wrestlers turn actors.
Wrestlers turned actors. Yeah.
Yep.
I think he's okay.
I think on that list, I'm bringing down The Rock because The Rock just plays The Rock in every movie. He doesn't really. He started off being a little versatile. Like I loved him in Be Smart because he played a totally different character in that than what you normally see what The Rock would be. I thought that was great. Of course, all these tough guys have to do the Tooth Fairy type movies.
Yeah, I was going to say he's Tooth Fairy. He's Mr. Danny.
So he had that one. And then John Cena. I think John Cena just is trying to break the picture of what John Cena is in all of his roles.
Yeah. Now, did you happen to see any trailers for The Rock in Big Red 1?
That looks fun.
Christmas
movie. I did. Dude, I am
down. Dude, all right.
Yes.
So team review this Christmas. They kidnapped Kris Kringle, and The Rock
played by J.K. Simmons.
Played by a jacked J.K. Simmons, because he's in the trailer he's lifting weights, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
it's like they're leaning into the fact that this dude's like totally yoked out of his mind at age 90. But I'm down for that, dude. Why am I seeing the Babadook on my screen, dude?
It is the 6-year anniversary being released.
No,
September 19th.
Okay, re-release, not a sequel, right?
Yeah, it's just a re-release.
Oh, thank God! I hate that movie so much. And then Whiplash. Speaking of J.K. Simmons, I thought that was weird.
Another re-release again.
Yep. Okay.
Are you dragging or are you rushing?
That was a good flick.
Other ones down here at the end. I saw the trailer when I went and saw The Forge last weekend, which I should be recording a review here soon. Once again,
get that time.
Yep. Let's see.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, no, go back up, back.
Yeah,
there it is.
The Christopher Reed story.
Dude, you know me. I'm not giant on documentaries. I'm going to see this. Like, I'm down for that.
Speaking of documentaries, currently in theaters, there's a biopic with Dennis Quaid playing Reagan that I heard's really good.
Dude, that actually has a really high. What is Rotten Tomatoes calling their bullshit now? The
certified fresh.
Or something? No. What's the audience score that they don't do anymore? But now they call it something else.
We just talked about this last certified week. Hot or something like that.
It's called the popcorn meter or some bullshit.
The popcorn meter. Yeah,
that yes. I think it had like a 97 or something. Like it's tracking for sure.
And here's the other one, another animated film coming out that looked very interesting, The Wild Robot, which I saw this, like I said, when I went and saw The Forge this weekend. It looked pretty interesting, of a robot that pretty much self-aware AI in the robot, gets swept out to an island and learns about nature on its own, and then starts taking on its own kind to protect nature.
Yeah, we saw this trailer a couple times at was it Harold and the Purple Crayon, and then again recently I saw it somewhere. Winter Wolf Pup, my son, he's definitely into it. He thought the robot was cool. He thought the robot like protecting animals against other robots that come back to tell the hero robot that she's defective and they want to fix her, and she's like, no, this is my home. Like, let's dance if we have to. And they get that great shot at the end of the trailer. All the animals are running into battle, and the robot kind of joins them. It's very much an Avengers Assemble kind of scene. So I think we'll check that out. We'll definitely get one of our safe for work reviews up. Me and the boy will handle that. That will look good. And then we got Hellboy again.
We got Hellboy, the Cooked Man.
Now, I didn't know this was set. I did not know this was set in the 50s. I'm more intrigued by it now because that puts it closer to the occultist Nazism vibe that you can get with that time frame, after the end of World War II. This is live action. This isn't animated. This is the second poke at redoing the franchise in I think like less than 5 years, because I think the David Harbour one I think was 2019. It was pre-pandemic. Maybe it's been a little bit more than 5 years. Wasn't received well. We had a couple of trailers for this that I think we watched on one of the earlier FrostCasts. At least one of them, I think, because one of them came out around. Wasn't this part of the D23 thing? I think it was up on our graphics somewhere. I think this was part of that collection. I might be wrong about that, but it looked okay. The prosthetic looks like it needs a little work. But if you like the Hellboy character, I'm told that the writer of the comic that actually wrote The Crooked Man thinks this is a pretty good adaptation. So, that might be okay. But that's a pretty stacked September. It's at least one thing a week to get you through. And there were some good re-releases in there too. If you were into the Babadook, it's back. I saw The Island on there. That's at a cap. That's oh no, that's not that's Shutter Island. Never mind.
No,
Shutter Island.
The Island, I believe, is Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, okay. Was that a rom-com? Is it a psychological
no,
thriller?
it's a thriller.
Okay.
Let's see if it's that one or no. This is a new movie.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it was Shutter Island. That's what I was thinking. Re-release. Yeah. Okay,
that's The Island right here.
Oh, there you go.
There's a description of it. Wow, it's a long description.
No,
looks like a foreign film.
Yeah, dude.
Matt Dillon.
I don't see ScarJo in there either, dude. I think you were thinking of something else.
Yeah, there's a movie called The Island that had Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson in it, called The Island, and it was like you saw this perfect society, and they're told that the world above is completely damaged, and they found an island, and then they win a lottery to go to this island. What they actually are clones of people living, and they're used for body parts to keep them alive.
Parts. Yes, I vaguely remember that. I should go back and check that out and see if that's on streaming. This island here, guys, you're watch at your own risk. Kingsley and Winterwolf have no idea what this is. It's got Matt Dillon. There you go. I don't know. It's got Matt Dillon in it. That might count for some people. I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, that's September, guys. Enough to keep you busy. All right, dude, your option. What are we gonna do here?
All right. So as you saw, we broke down these movies, and as you saw, there's a lot of them. I'm trying to get this full screen.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Hold on a second. Save image.
Kingsley did a boomer. Kingsley did a boomer.
I didn't do a boomer.
I was just filling dead air, dude. Oh, snap. He said I'll wash him out.
That's right. I'm Gen X. I'm just here to watch the world burn, baby.
Uh-huh.
All right. So let's go ahead and stop screen sharing. So as you saw in those movies, a lot of them are horror based. And that is because we have entered and for some reason it crashed.
I worked hard on that.
Well, season, everybody. September, you'll start seeing more and more horror movies come out, ramping up for, of course, Halloween. October is, the king of horror movies, usually because, once again, Halloween. But one of the things I did want to show, and I think I just closed it like a moron. Let me open it back up. There we go.
He said it. I didn't say it.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have a discussion topic here to wrap up the show. But one thing I want to do is one of my friends is releasing a short film here where I live. There's this film festival every October that they have. It's called the 31 Days of Horror by Wages of Sin. Sin by CINE for like cinema. I actually have a short film in that back in 2019. I had a short film in this. My friend here, he usually posts one every year, and this is his latest one. I'm about to show his movie poster. If I can find it here, because I'm using Chrome today. I don't know what's the screen. No,
I forgot to switch, by the way, and I did notice some hurt.
I'm using Firefox instead of Chrome. I'm having some technical issues, but here's the movie poster for his movie. Slice of life. using that most dreaded garden weasel.
Yeah, I was gonna say garden weasel.
Yep. It is also going to a couple film festivals other than the 31 Days of Sin, but I want to give him a shout out for releasing his film. One of the very talented filmmakers here, and if I could do anything with this this weekly podcast is bring up independent filmmakers. So
it's no joke putting together a film like that. Yeah, dude. Kudos to your buddy for actually getting it done.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to my buddy there for getting his short film out. It will be hopefully online in YouTube for 31 days. I will definitely be sharing it when it actually released. So what the 31 Days of Horror Film Festival is for Wages of Sin is they release a horror movie one day for every day of October. Mine was actually released on October 5th, 2019 on their YouTube channel. The very first thing I ever wrote and directed. So I was kind of happy about that. And it got released on a very important day to me. So I just wanted to make sure. Yep. So I was really happy for that to happen. So
it was good.
Yeah, I just want to give him a shout out. But what we're going to talk about is horror movies in general and how they work. As we were having a discussion at work today of like what is wrong with modern horror compared to new horror movies. And one of the things that I brought up is that they don't build tension like they used to. Mm-hmm. Anyone you want to elaborate on that? That's my take, is that modern day horror movies don't build the tension like they used to.
Dude, modern day horror movies fall into two different traps, right? I anticipated this question. I know you pretty good. Right? The first trap, in my opinion, it falls into is schlock for schlock's sake. And you can only play that move once. It's like if you're playing a fighting game and the dude keeps throwing a Hadouken, like sooner or later you can time it and you learn to jump over it and feed him his lunch. Like that, so they can overschlock it. But I think the other worst problem is when things become derivative within a movie to the point where you can predict the jump scare even if you're not following the story. Because people, like, I think modern horror movies, if they're like, say they're 90 minutes, they follow a roadmap almost to the minute that there needs to be something loud or rushing at the screen like every 8 minutes. So it's like you're strung along like it's like playing Guitar Hero. Like you just red, green, blue, green, red, green, blue, red, blue, and like and then oh shit, credits, it's over. And I think that's the problem is people have abandoned for whatever reason because they think that horror is only loud noises like screams or doors slamming or literally like cats jumping down from the fridge in front of the shot or that's it. Like, and it's not like great. None of that stuff was in The Exorcist. None. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like none of that nonsense was in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. If you go back and watch it, it's a surreal tension builder. And yeah, it gets bloody where it has to, but Freddy's not like, oh, I'm looking over here and then like that's not how that movie works. I don't even think the original Friday the 13th works that way. Halloween definitely doesn't work that way. That's a 2-hour exercise in establishing shots and getting Michael into place, slowly but surely creeping dread on that ass. Mm-hmm. You don't need to jump out of closets and do weird shit like every 10 minutes. I think that's the problem. It's just too predictable. And I think it's predictable to people that aren't even like us, where we can predict it just because we've seen a million of them. So eyes closed, I can go in and say, he dies first. She's the final, even before we even know what the story is. Like just when you put people on screen, she's the bitch. He's a dickhead. He's dead first. The mom's the killer. Like we just know. I think they've already overplayed all these things and now everybody knows. So it needs to be really weird out of the box or over the top to get people to respond to it. Like that's why I haven't seen them, but the Terrifier series with Art the Clown. People seem to love those two movies. It's not for me. I haven't seen them, but people are trying to elevate it like it's the modern day standard. So it must do one of those things particularly well. I don't know. What do you think? Why is where has horror gone wrong? Because I think for all it's gone wrong, it also still does a lot of things right. We talk about ROI all the time with horror movies. They're still immensely profitable if you take your shot. So where do you think it's fallen off?
So I think it's funny that you talked about the jumping cat for the jump scare.
Oh, it's cliche, bro. It's cliche.
So we have save the cat, kill the cat, and now we have jump the cat. So, how to make a modern day horror film?
Listen, tell Blake Snyder that's our title. It's us. That's us. We're trademarking that shit today. Online application, baby. Not even jump the shark. We've invented jump the cat. Nicely done. But I think you're right, dude. I mean, it's a book, and that's probably the problem. Is a lot of new screenwriters probably took that bog standard template of Save the Cat because it does make sense. That format, it's how you're trained to visualize story, but they don't deviate from it.
Yeah, I think people take Save the Cat or the very simple formulas they talked about in Scream, and they believe that it's Control C, Control V, make a horror movie when it was only supposed to be guidelines. It's not rules. It's more like guidelines. Like
we should have that clip.
So just kind of keep it on a flow so you don't lose the audience. I think one that a good horror movie that talks about this whole setup and everything, like, you talked about the final girl and stuff like that. Setup is Cabin in the Woods with Liam Hemsworth, or no, Chris Hemsworth.
That was Chris. Yeah, that was Thor, pre-Thor.
And was it Bradley Whitley or West Wing? Josh Lyman from the Josh Lyman from the West Wing. He's in it as well.
Sigourney Weaver.
And like how they talked to Sigourney Weaver at the very end, as she's the director of this. But it was 5 like minutes. You had to have the slut, and then you had to have the jock, and then you had to have the fool.
The stoner was the fool. The archetypes, character archetypes is basically what they are.
Yeah, and they all had to fill those roles, and they had to die. The slut always had to die first, and then the last girl doesn't even have to die. She just has to be the last one
to suffer
at the end.
She has to suffer on the way, right? Yep. But the clever thing that movie did, and again, this is great, a great thing to pick, is and subverted is a dirty word in fandom now because of TLJ and Ryan Johnson, but they subverted all those expectations. They had to manipulate those characters to get them to behave like archetypes.
Yeah,
they had to gas the kids in the cabin to make the girl become the slut.
Well, they got even her hair dye, like they got put in her shampoo and stuff like that.
Yep. Oh, that's right. The gas was to get Chris Hemsworth, who was a jock, but also super smart and not a dick. Because they show him at the beginning talking about, oh, you're taking this advanced class with this teacher. Don't take that. Read this book with this guy instead. You know, this, and the same thing with the fool. He was so baked on all his crap that their stuff he tried to poison it didn't work. It didn't work. He was the hero. It was wild. Yeah, but again, there's nothing like Cabin in the Woods. It's an original idea. Maybe I'm sure there's something like it, but I mean, it's new enough to me that by the time the final thing's going down and I hit that purge button, I'm like, it's like Avengers Assemble up in this piece. Like this worked. This whole thing worked.
That was actually a pretty good scene. And then he's like, he died. He always wanted to have the merman because they had to choose what was their creature that's trying to kill them based on what they find down in the cellar.
They didn't know they were choosing. They had to were presented with the opportunity to choose.
It's whatever they picked up and looked at.
Right. And Ghostbusters, like, they were like, envision whatever.
Yeah, and then he was like, "Man, why can't it be merman? Why can't it ever be?"
And then
they're even taking bets on it. Like all the people who worked in this organization were taking bets.
That scene is one of the most paused scenes in YouTube history. I saw a thing on that. That scene has been paused something like 8 trillion times, where people wanted the whiteboard on screen so they could read all the different creatures that were in the betting pool by the religion putting on the end of the world skit. Speaking of that. The downer ending worked in this movie too, because they earned all of that crap going forward into the ending where they're like, no, mankind kind of sucks. We're good here. Fist bumps. Let the world get destroyed. But you know what else I think is missing from horror too? And let me ask you this question, right? I feel like all the horror that comes out now, even if it's not a sequel or wholly derivative of something else, even if it doesn't fit into like an expanded universe, like we got all this Conjuring, Insidious, The Nun, Annabelle, it's all lumped into one thing, right? What happened to other good, I want to say like high production value subgenres of horror? Where are my monster movies? Where's the modern day Jaws? Like we had Deep Blue Sea 20 years ago. Where's a good movie about like werewolves or something? Like where's a good body horror movie that isn't some schlock that somebody made that ends up on Tubi? You know what I mean? Like where's this stuff? Because when we were coming up, 70s, 80s, 90s, There were entries in video stores for weeks in all of
And you
these
just said
subgenres. Now we don't have that.
You just said it. Video
Well,
stores.
what did it? Okay. But I mean, they still were made. They were still there. They were, and none. And I think most of them were of higher quality than the crap I can go find on Tubi right now. Where's the high quality alien invasion movie? I don't know. Or body snatchers movie.
That's the problem. Is everyone is so subverse to what they watch. Now, I think that's why the reason why Netflix is kind of successful right now is they're throwing in all that foreign film that aren't held back by the American film industry. Watch my wallet. Where's my ROI?
Dude, you're not kidding, dude. That Korean stuff on Netflix is some of the best. Dude, I'm converted. I've come around on that. I watched my parents watch a lot of the K-drama crap on Netflix and made fun of them for like a year. And then I watched like one horror series called Hellbound, and I'm like, I'm in. Like, I'll go find. I will now go find other stuff and suffer through subtitles. Yeah, I hate it, but I'm getting better at it. To watch better stuff, stories.
Some of these movies are worth reading your movie, and it's awesome.
Dude, I'm converted wholly.
Yeah, because they're not held back by American restraint of ROI. They're out there putting out good movies, and they're letting people take chances, and they're realizing these chances work. Now, of course, there's always the the American market is the second biggest market behind the Chinese market.
Right.
But the problem is that people don't like subtitles, and that's personal bias because they don't want to read their movie. But you're missing out on good movies. I mean, Godzilla -1 is hands down one of the best movies I've seen.
Dude, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I just wanted to stick that right up the craw of American movies, just financially speaking, because that comes up all the time. I don't remember talking about movie budgets 10 years ago. But now we use it as a barometer of how or why something's going to be good, because we see the same pattern of mistakes being made by studios. How can Japan make Godzilla -1 for 17 million or whatever it was? And I did labor markets, cram it. We're talking about magnitudes of difference between something like Godzilla -1 and what's the next Marvel movie coming out? Is it it's Winter Soldier or whatever? Not Winter Soldier,
the new Captain America. Yeah,
whatever. So 300 million for that. Okay, dude, I watched Godzilla destroy Tokyo 4 fucking times in Godzilla -1, and I swear they found a real dinosaur. When he's swimming in the water behind the boat and you look into its eyes, it's real. Like, they found a dinosaur, without a doubt. But they made that movie for 17 million. You know why? Because I'm convinced they have to come at it with the same kind of approach American films did in the 60s, 70s, 80s. They knew they were on a budget. They had to think outside the box. Necessity was the mother of invention. No, we're not going to fix it in post. No, there won't be 90% reshoots 9 months in while the interest payments are stacking up on what we finance. No shot. They made that movie in one go, I guarantee it. And they were like, nah, this is the script. We storyboarded the scenes. This is the effects budget. Go. And then they did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. My final thing is, what's wrong with modern horror is that it's too in your face. We saw this with the later versions of the Saw. It was just how gory you can get. Gore is not horror. It's something you add to add suspense. Like we talked about the original Friday the 13th. You didn't know who the killer was until the final third.
Yep.
Like at the very bottom.
Half of the final third. It might even been like literally the last 10 minutes. Like
or
the
like
finale.
If you go with some of the older monster movies, you never saw the monster until the final third. So the tension that it built, the way that your imagination can work and make things way worse than what they can actually be made is so much better. And it's something they miss because they don't trust the American audience or any audience to do that. They have to throw it in your face. They have to shove it down your throat, and then it's not really scary anymore.
Yeah, it's predictable and derivative and uninspired, and in the case of like the bazillion sequels we get, it's because they're risk adverse to take those chances, which is weird because, like we've talked about a million times, like you got a studio set up like Blumhouse or A20. Is A24 Blumhouse? Is that the same thing? I always
no, A24. They were both independent studios that kind of got big, just like Lionsgate was like no one heard of Lionsgate.
Perfect example. Lionsgate that financed Saw originally for a budget of like 30 million and gave Lee Whannell and James Wan the shot to turn it into $1 billion franchise. Dude, horror is exactly the genre to do that because it's, in my opinion, easier to do than something than comedy. Comedy's tough. Being funny is hard. Horror movie, structurally kind of easy. And if you play tight with your budget on like effects and locations, things like that, you can get a pretty banging return. So take these chances, horror movies. You think Smile, would Smile be the best horror movie we had to offer 15 years ago? Probably not, but it's one of the better ones I think we've had recently, like 5 years anyway. Hell, it's got a sequel coming out next month. I'm in, because there's nothing else.
All right.
Now, how much did it cost to make that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the problem. Like 8mm by J.J. Abrams had the formula, but then he had to show you in the second act the monster. If he would have waited to the third act to release the monster instead of showing it to you in the second act, that movie would have been so much better.
Yep, you ain't wrong. And that was almost 30 years ago now.
All right.
Good point. Good call.
So as we're wrapping up, go ahead and recommend one horror film right now for people to see that they probably haven't seen.
Any horror movie of all time?
Yep, go ahead.
Dude, I'm gonna go to my classic. It's not even mega old. It's Sinister for me. Still works. It's still my most recent favorite. It got under my skin and stayed there for weeks. Don't know why. I understand it's pretty mid by most people. I loved it. I thought Ethan Hawke was great. And the ending, chill ya. What about you?
I'm going to be going with Time is on my side.
I can't remember the name, but I know the movie. The Fall. That's right.
Falling, starring Denzel and John Goodman. Great horror film.
I told you about that time I almost died. Great closing line in that movie. He hopped up in the cat. Yeah. All right, then that does mean we reached the end of the show. King Z, time for a big long goodbye.
All right. Well, see ya.